All right, Seth, let's hear about yours.
So mine is kind of trying to dissect the reasons behind why students don't practice. And so I think as music teachers, it's something that we all encounter. And so I've done a lot of research on this over the last well 2 semesters. Really, it's kind of gone into this project. And so what I found basically is there's a lot of reasons why they don't, but it all kind of comes down to two major things. And neither of these will probably be a surprise, but I mean, there's something that we have to intentionally choose to do something about. And one of them is they don't know what to practice when they get home. So um, I, I don't know about your students, but mine always will practice the things they already know how to play. And so the first thing they'll do is if they go home and practice, and a lot of them don't, but if they do go home and practice, generally they're not accomplishing anything new. They're only just rehearsing the stuff that they already like or something they found on YouTube that has nothing to do with whatever else that we're doing in class. So if they don't know how, one of the things that we've got to do is teach them how to practice and teach them what to practice. And so I think giving them tools so that they know when they get to a point where they don't know what's going on, they know what to do about it. And so they're familiar with technology, so that's one of the resources that we can give them instead of it being a distraction. We can give them a tool like I know band directors love the app Tonal Energy, and so I use that regularly in my
Great app.
class. But I mean, it's one of the most all-encompassing tools all in one app. And so an app like that can be helpful and useful. Also, using things that they like and they enjoy, I think, is another way to get them to practice. And TikTok, for example, is one of those. Like, I don't think highly of TikTok at all, but some of the best performances I've seen is just by scrolling through it a little bit and seeing an amazing performer. And so getting students to listen to some of those things. If they have TikTok, I wouldn't encourage them to use it, but or download it if they don't have it. But if they do, to search out maybe a really cool performance and then seeing if they could emulate some of the things that they're seeing from those guys that are performing online. And so that's another thing to kind of incorporate meeting them where they are and using those tools to help them kind of become more motivated to practice at home. I did a survey of my own kids last semester about why they don't practice. And the number one thing, the number one result, and it's no surprise to me, is that they didn't want to. They don't want to go home and do anything. After being forced to be at school, they generally don't want to be forced to do anything else. But I feel like if we can give them some ways to be motivated or inspired, that may change that a little bit. And so that's one. So they don't know what to do when they get home if they choose to go home and practice. The other thing is all about culture. And so building a positive relationship in your classroom. And I don't know if you guys know this. Feel like I'm late to the game here, but as a part of my paper, I wanted to incorporate the TEAC standards. And those are no longer on the Department of Education's website. And so I don't, that was news to me that those don't exist online anymore. So I literally had to do an archive search for the Teaks handbook. And I found it, but it's definitely like not there anymore. So we're all going to be evaluated this coming school year on a standard that is no longer published online. And so that opened up a whole other door of I have a problem with that. But I'm not worried about my feedback. I'm not worried about being rated. I'm not worried about my school. But if I was one of those who felt like I was on the chopping block, I'd worry about that. So that's a little olive branch. But bringing that back, so obviously, a positive learning environment is one of the TEAC standards, and so I really think that plays into our classes more than anything else. As an art teacher, course teacher, band director, I feel like those are really, really important things. That if the kids feel cared about, they feel excited about your classroom, they feel like they can put themselves out there to take chances, they'll be much more likely to do that outside of the classroom experience so that they can bring that back into the classroom and show you what they accomplished. They want you to be proud of them. They may not say it. It's just like they'll never tell you that they'll never tell their parents that they want them there, but they want them there. They want them there for a concert or performance. So I feel like building the positive culture in the classroom, such an important thing to help our students become not only feel like they're cared about, but so many of my students over the years have told me that I'm like their second dad or I'm the dad they never had. And those are sad stories, but it makes me feel also like I've got a sense of responsibility for those kids to make it a really, really cool environment for them. That's not always going to be, hey, you're doing a good job, but hey, I love you. I care about you. I'm going to help you get better. And this is some of the things I'm going to show you, even when they don't want to. So that was the big takes on my paper. I'm done with it, but I wanted to have this class before I submitted it to make sure I wasn't leaving something out or didn't have any, feedback from you guys about something else that could be implemented before I submitted that. So that's kind of that's my paper.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, Seth, one of the things that came to my mind as you were talking, have you ever read a book called The Inner Game of Music? It's by
I have
Barry
not.
Green. Okay, I'll put it in the chat. Um,
Yes.
Talking about practicing and motivation and performing, fantastic. It's an older book.
Okay.
Um, and I'm pretty sure it's by Barry Green. I could be wrong, but that's the name of it, is The Inner Game of Music. Um, and it's the same guy. He wrote a book called The Inner Game of Tennis first,
Okay.
and talking about the stuff that, like, there's so much more to the game of tennis than just hitting the ball over the net. It's everything that happens when the ball is not in play,
Right.
you know.
Mental.
And that's kind of what he talks about with practicing and, going from, across the bar, going to one beat across the bar line when you're doing a phrase and working out pieces of two measure phrases, four measure phrases, how to pick out where the rhythms are that are going to give you a hard time and what to do with them to remember, you know, all really, really good practice tips. Um, but that's a really, really, I read that in college, and it stuck with me. I was in college a long time ago. Well, for a long time, but I started a long time ago. If you stay in college long enough, they make you the teacher. That's the
That's the trick.
that's the trick. Um, all right, so Courtney, and then after that, we're gonna let Sarah and Joel rock, paper, scissors for who's gonna go third and who will go fourth. Okay, so Courtney, let's hear about yours.
All right, so my topic was Orphan Kodai in the choral classroom. You always hear about these two things typically at like the elementary level and how great they are. And my thought was if they're that great, then they should be implemented beyond elementary and in the choral classroom. And how do we do that? So I kind of broke my paper down and talked about a little bit about Orff and a little bit about Kodai, just how Orff was a German composer and how he focused on creating through compositions and improv, singing and moving and musical instruments. And one of the big takeaways from that I got was that we can create ostinatos and do rhythm clapping. Those are the two big, I guess, components from Orff that we can use in the choral classroom. Kodai was a Hungarian composer and he emphasized ear training, singing, and musical literacy. So solfege, different things like that we already use in the classroom, um, comes from him. So as far as like professional practice, using both of these things give these kids like positive musical experiences, but it also gives them life skills, learning how to work together to do compositions, and then actually having to present your compositions and having the nerve to get up there and do that is nerve wracking for a lot of especially my middle schoolers. But using these two things, it helps improve sight reading skills, helps with their tonal memory and their oral skills. And then it also gives them that side where they can be creative and you can, give them like certain parameters, but they still get to be the composer, and do those. So as far as like takeaways from music as a whole, like in Georgia, it helps with the standards. So one of those like sub areas for us is like skills and techniques. And those go all into Kodai, and Orff, creation and critical analysis. So for music as a whole, I feel like these two, instill like a love for music through creativity. It's not necessarily like you have to do this, 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 and this. It gives, more of an opening for kids to decide like what they like and why they chose this and why this sounded better and different things. But one of the things that I was reading, we talk about them as like methods, but when this started out, these were like philosophies that these guys had, and we use them like as I like this method and that method and put them together. But truly, in and of themselves, it's like a philosophy that they used and developed. So that's in a nutshell my paper.
Nice.
Yeah.
Nice. One thing that I would often talk to teachers about was when they'd say, "Well, I'm doing an ORF unit." No, you're not.
Yeah, yeah.
It's not. That's not like a light switch. It's we're using ORF instruments. We're using an ORF approach, but this is not just we're going to do ORF and then put it away. You don't put
I
it
think
away.
I think the biggest disservice is like, oh, we're using ORF instruments today. Well, like, yes, you use them for ORF, but there's so many other things that you use them for. It's not just quote unquote ORF instruments. And
Hmm.
I think that's where most people think, oh, elementary, like, because my class, when I taught elementary, like, we did use the ORF instruments all the time,
Hmm.
but we can use them beyond the elementary classroom too.
Oh, absolutely. I used them when I taught middle school as well.
I mean, like my middle schoolers love playing some instruments too, even though it's chorus class.
Hmm.
And I found that it helps them learn the music better when they play it and sing it and all of that together.
Yeah, I mean, to me, working with choirs, anytime we can put something else in their hands, right? It takes a little bit of the focus, especially with a younger voice, it takes a little bit of the focus off of what I'm doing to try to perfect something that I'm physically not capable of doing yet.
Right.
And it gives them a, hey, let me focus on playing this instrument and I still have to sing, but I'm not, as they tend to stress a
Yeah.
little bit too much on that.
Yes.
And it's their
The
fault.
hardest thing to me is like with my middle schoolers, like teaching them like how to sight read. Okay, go from do to mi. You know, they might say do and mi, but we're singing do re instead of do mi. So when we use our hands and actually like look at the jump per se or the skip, that seems to help them realize like, oh hey, like my voice is supposed to be doing what my hand
Hmm.
is doing, which is one of the things that was in my paper too.
Nice. Now, you do the traditional hand symbols for them, or do you do? I've seen some choral directors kind of like do levels with their hands.
Well, like when we do our scales to start with, like we start down here and then do do go all the way up. But like when we actually sight read, I don't
Mhm.
make them. They're just trying to focus on the notes. Like we're not going to focus on hey, it's fall up here, down here. You
Mhm.
know,
Yeah. And you use
it's
movable dough, I'm guessing.
oh yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
I can imagine not using movable dough.
I I had the hardest time doing that because we used scale degrees. My undergraduate program, they did everything with scale degrees.
Oh man,
1 3 5 3 1.
I cannot.
That's how I grew up learning it, and it was absolutely miserable. And then I got to college and learned solfege, and I was like, why didn't anyone ever teach me this? I could have gotten into Allstate with this.
Yeah. Uh, well,
Yeah.
I could not have. But
Oh yes, yes, absolutely.
nice. All right. So who do we have next? Courtney, I really like that. The ability to accompany ourselves, by the way, is huge. Um, and whether it be Orff or Kodai, one of the things, like if I were to have a musical pet peeve, okay, I do. I think all of us do. And I think this might be one for all of us. My musical pet peeve is when people start clapping on 2 and 4 and then they do it on the wrong beats. If there's one thing, if I could fix one thing about the world of music, it would be 1 2 3 4, right? It would be that. Um, and I'll tell you what, it's not just a school kid thing. Yeah, Sarah, you can go next. Um, it's just it's all people thing, and it's wild. And I will tell you guys some really cool stuff that I'm gonna hold off until next semester, which is in like 2 or 3 weeks. About there is actually a physiological reason behind some of that stuff. It's nuts. I know, right? But okay, so Sarah's gonna go
Hey,
next, and
can
Joel's
y'all
gonna.
hear me?
Sarah, we hear you.
Okay. All right. I wanted to go next because mine is also about Orff, but on the other end of the grade levels. Mine is about K and 1. And Courtney, a lot of what I'm going to say is pretty similar. So bear with me. What I was looking into, so mine is Orff Shore Work and the Georgia kindergarten first grade standards. Can Orff Shore Work fulfill the standards? Initially, I was going to do it for K5, and then I realized that was just too broad of a scope, so I narrowed it down to K1. And we know, of course, it can, but we're going to talk about it in a paper. So we've got the standard, the overarching standards for creating, performing, responding, and connecting. And it's really great because Orff covers all of those things. Sorry, I hate trying to talk over Zoom. I just totally fall over myself whenever I do it. This is why I like typing. Orff believed that every child is musical, and he thought that music education should include children of all musical abilities. So simple things that were easily accessible, like hand clapping, body percussion, speaking, chanting, singing, and movement, and classroom instruments that are easy to play, those all are excellent for K1. And the students experience music through movement, play, singing, and speaking, which is excellent for the cognitive and motor development skills needed by kindergartners and first graders to create a solid foundation for music and academic learning. And part of the challenge of implementing Orff-based instruction, just like we were talking about, that you can't really have an Orff unit or anything like that. It's not an Orff method. There's not a step-by-step guide on how to implement the Orff approach, like some people might wish there was. But it's an elemental approach, which leaves educators the freedom to create their own methods of instruction. And what's also really important for the younger grades is it stresses experiencing and internalizing the music before attempting to notate it. So we know that it's pretty important not to be only focusing on like written notation in kindergarten and first grade, because they're still learning how to read like regular words. So a lot of the things like internalizing steady beat and singing and learning pitch, those are really well addressed by the Orff approach. And the strong emphasis on rhythm and steady beat activities also can they also can help form a solid foundation for acquiring the language, reading, and math skills. One of the things that I found really frustrating, though, in this paper is that while I have lots of scholarly sources that say what Orff is really good for, there's not a lot of scholarly sources that like give a specific example of what they are doing in Orff. So I feel like I'm kind of repeating Orff is good in this paper a lot. So that's been my main frustration doing that. It's like it's a lot of paragraphs saying Orff is really great. It really fulfills standards. But overall, with the Orff approach, they're encouraged to experiment with their voices to enhance creativity and imagination. And once students become familiar with all of these concepts, it builds a great foundation for the later things like notation and learning learning written notation and getting to perform in ensembles and the things that they'll do when they're older. And I'm still on a rough draft, so that's about what I've got for right now. So that's what I've got.
Excellent. Um,
Okay.
so one of the things, Sarah, that I found to be my favorite thing about conducting a group is I found as the conductor, nerves were not an issue for me. As a performer, nerves were often an issue for me. Um, and again, that book, Inner Game of Music, helped me a good deal with that. He talks about copying, tricking your body into what it's supposed to be like by having you go run for 10 minutes and then come back and practice. Because what you're doing is you're elevating your heart rate, you're making yourself sweat, you're doing, all of the things that happen when you are nervous. It's the same thing that as when you are presenting or when you're performing. The thing that I liked about conducting, I'm not a great conductor, but the thing I loved about conducting and directing a group was when I go out, you turn your back to the audience, and the only thing you're looking at are the people you've been working with this whole time. And there's a whole lot to that, because you can literally tune out whether it be 10 people behind you or, 10,000. It doesn't matter. You can tune all that out. Um, and the same is true when we're presenting, whether it be, to colleagues or whatever. Understand that all of us, when we are presenting to each other, and this is not just Sarah, this is to everybody here, you've already done the work. The hard part's over. This is the part where you're sharing what you've done and making us better. So we thank you for that because it's an opportunity that we would not have had otherwise. So when you get to the place where you're presenting at anything, whether it be in this class, in another class, in front of colleagues at school or whatever, realize that those people want you to succeed just like you want yourself to succeed. We want to see everybody better because when you do better, it does what all of us do. It makes it better, right? Now, so Sarah, to yours in specific, when you're doing your search, go back and do why ORF or research ORF.
Okay.
And just see what I've read so far, and the rest of the folks that know this. I've already read through Sarah's paper. It's fantastic. It's very, very good. And she's got some really, really cool stuff in there. Um, I'm not going to share her paper with you. If she wants to, that's up to her. But I will
I
say,
appreciate you not doing that. Thank you so much.
but what I will say, and I've read some of your stuff, guys. All of you that have handed something in, I've read it. I've graded a lot of them and given you some notes back on what to do. Um, but for to find a couple more sources if you want. Sarah, what you have right now is fine, and you don't have to get more sources than that. But if you're interested in finding some additional research, because you're right, a lot of times when you're doing something that is a philosophy, it's very easy for a research, especially something as predominant as ORF. It's a lot easier for people to say, yeah, that's good. It's good. There's also so many. One of the things that ORF does better than just about anything else, as far as pedagogy in a music classroom, is it ties in with children's literature and reinforcing skills with like steady beat, like melodic contour, whatever it is that we're doing with simple ostinato phrases that we pull from the book. And then the repetition of doing that over and over and over again really hits home. There's Sarah, have you done pout pout fish with your first graders?
I haven't done that one.
Okay, do you have it?
No, I don't have that one.
Okay. Remind me before the school year starts. I'm very good friends with the lady who wrote that ORF lesson, and I can promise you that she would be happy with me sharing it with you. Rhonda Tucker is the lady who did that lesson.
Thank you. That's great.
Yeah, it's been published in a couple of different things, but I've got it somewhere and I'll send it to you because it's great for first grade. And so, I mean, so many cool things. And then you can also tie with it the rainbow fish and, you know, do a whole unit on under the sea uh, with the littles, and it works really nicely. But okay, so next up, and driving this home, you know him. We're all fans. Here he is. With was it Lion King on today? Yeah, buddy. Are you guys doing a Lion King show, or is that just you just like the?
No, just shirt. That's just the shirt.
Okay, what's your show this year?
It's titled "I Got a Feeling."
Stop it.
Yeah,
Okay, so tell me what's okay. So obviously the Black Eyed Peas,
yeah. We have
off the
Black Eyed
line.
Peas, Flow Rider. I get a good feeling. Um, of course, the Lion King Can't Feel the Love Tonight
Hmm.
with a mix of feeling good.
Nina Simone.
Uh, yeah, Nina Simone. We're gonna have a sax solo for
Okay.
that song, and then Can't Stop the Feeling.
Okay, JT. All right. You doing I
Yeah.
got what's it? Oh, the James Brown song. I feel good.
Oh, I thought about that one, but we're not going to incorporate that one.
Okay. Even in Georgia, he's one of us. But so what's your off the line? What are you coming? I think that may be old terminology. What's your opener?
Oh, I got a feeling.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the opener.
Nice. Nice. And when's the show? When are we going to be able to see it?
Uh, it'll be in the fall. So
Okay.
hopefully, yeah.
Well, we'll all be here. We'll all be here. Um, all right, before I hear you, Joel, Seth, what about you? What's your show this year?
Well, I'm middle school now, so
Oh, okay.
unless something happens, we don't have a show.
Okay, cool, cool. All right. Well, nice. All right, Joel, let's hear it, man. You're muted. There we
I
go.
don't know. Okay, I don't know how I'm gonna follow up those three presentations, but I'm gonna just go with the best of what I got. All right, so I'm gonna shoot you guys a brochure that I found from NAFI. If I can find it real quick. Okay, where is it? Share before I get started. All right. All right, there it is. All right, so my title of my paper is titled Music and Social Emotional Learning. So with that topic, I wanted to kind of focus on I thought back to my students. As you guys know, we teach a lot of students that are introverts. Um, but we know that music is something that helps them get through um certain situations that they face. So so with that, I kind of want to deal with that social emotional learning aspect. So we know that with social emotional learning, that's a process that helps individuals develop the knowledge, skills, and attitudes to make responsible decisions. And it's also aspect of human development by impacting academic success, school, and civic engagement, as well as health and career paths. So, in some of the research that I found, um, we been talking with Dr. K. He wanted me to kind of emphasize soft skills.
Okay.
So, soft skills is just something that's vital for success for just the different aspects of life, including schoolwork and relationships. So, we know that the SEL has different competencies such as self-aware, self-management, social awareness, relationship skills, and uh, responsible decision making. And so within those competencies, there are those soft skills. Um, I'm not going to really go through it because for the sake of time. But in in that document that I just sent you guys, I thought it was neat because it talks about how are music educators well suited to help students develop socially and emotionally. And it says music education can provide context for those relationships through encouraging collaboration and creativity in safe environments. That's one thing that we try to emphasize is creating that safe environment for our students. So something else that kind of stuck out to me was the next point. Musical experiences can help us connect with deep emotions. Sometimes music um, can elicit measures psychological responses such as chills or goosebumps, providing students the opportunity to reflect on emotional issues, um, influence emotions that have physical and psychological states. And then from the other side of that, it talks about how can public policy support music education and social emotional learning. So it just breaks down how it can for the school aspect, and then for the states, and then for Congress. Um, so something else that I kind of found throughout the research in one of the articles that I was reading, it talked about um, how students deal with social emotional learning, but not only just students, us as music teachers, we deal with that too, and how to find ways to uh, to 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 deal with that. And the way to deal with that is to just basically you have to take care of yourself in order to be able to teach your students. So you want to try to focus on for one, you want to focus on your health. Two, focus on a little self-love. Three, focus on personal competence, whether that's learning a new skill. And the last point is to focus on gratitude. So I'm still kind of somewhat in the mid research, and then I'm gathering, getting ready to start the paper. So that's kind of like where I'm at. I can't hear you.
Yep, I posted up here. I know, right? It doesn't matter. Doesn't matter how much you do this. Um, Ashley Bear is a lady who does mindfulness. She was actually a Forsyth County person, but she has done this. She does this all over the world. There's an app called Insight Timer, and she does this thing with SEL talking about being regulated and unregulated. And a lot of times when we as the director are frustrated with a situation and you just don't know what to do, a lot of times it's because you're off, right? And you allowed something to happen that got you off. And so when teachers would come to her and say, I just can't get to, and she'd go, well, of course you can't, because the stuff works when you do it. If you don't do it, the stuff doesn't work. It's one thing to have your kids do it, but you got to do it with them and all that. Her stuff, uh, actually band, chorus, anything, just the breathing exercises that she does, fantastic. Great thing to do at the beginning of a rehearsal, again at the middle of the rehearsal, and at the very end of the rehearsal. Warm ups, warm downs, and just kind of refresher to kind of get the head right in the middle. Um, I've done them with elementary, with itty bitties, kinder, pre-K. I've done breathing stuff. It's really, really helpful. Um, and Joel, the soft skills that we're talking about, I can't stress enough how valuable that is. When it comes time, whether these kids ever decide to gig as a musician or just, go on a job interview or any of those other things, soft skills are the things that get you those jobs. When you go to do, if you go to do a big orchestra audition or something like that, you need to understand every person that tries out can play the part. Every single one of them can play the part perfectly, right? When you get to second level all state round, right? every kid who goes in is going to play the etudes correctly. All of them will. The difference is going to be, well, for not for all state, the difference for all state is how well they sight read and can phrase. Um, but for jobs, the difference is, are you somebody that I want to work with? I don't care how good you are. This is the part that I need. All of y'all guys can play the part. The question is, do I want to work with you? You could be way better than that part, but if you're a jerk, I don't need to work with you. So that's where soft skills come into play. Um, we were talking in another class that I have about homeschool and having kids from homeschool come into their band programs and what the frustrations were, what the benefits were, whatever. And of course, the biggest frustration is, well, I know my part, right? Well, that's good, but you're part of a bigger group, right? I know my part isn't good enough. Like I said, every kid who comes in should know their part. Seth, for yours, Alfred Watkins had a great quote that I have used my entire career. Um, Rehearsal literally means to hear again. You can't hear it again if you haven't heard it the first time. Practice happens at home, rehearsal happens here when we're together. And I'll tell you, I've probably said that a million times in the past 30 years, but I'm telling you, if you hadn't heard that before, and I'm sure you probably have, if you hadn't heard that before, you're welcome. Uh,
I got to do my student teaching with Gary Gribble, who was a big, he was great friends with Alfred. So I got to hang out with him a good bit while I was student teaching. So that was pretty incredible experience. But yeah, I've heard him say that before directly. And what a great man.
Gary was my high school band director.
No way.
Yep.
That's crazy.
Yep. And was Josh Rudolph his assistant when you were there?
He came in after I was done student teaching.
Okay. So Josh is 2 years younger than me. He was a trumpet player in the band at Pope when I was there. Andy Esserwine, who is the new president of GMEA, was our drum major at Pope when I was there.
I feel like everybody went to Pope, but me.
A lot of us did. Scott Brown over at Dickerson, who they
Mhm.
just got into GMEA this year for percussion ensemble. He went to Pope. Yeah, a lot of people went there, and that's just a testament to Gary.
No doubt.
And Gary was actually Alfred's assistant
Yep.
before they opened Pope. But yeah, that was how we got to. And I'll tell you, one of the cool things about Alfred Watkins, I was never in his band. Yeah, I went to Pope. He was at Lassiter, which was a phenomenal band. Alfred Watkins, 10, 15 years later, remembered my name and how he knew me.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
I
crazy.
mean, like crazy, like I went to college, I did the whole thing, I come back and I see him at something and he's like, "Oh, David, how's it going? How's the drums treating you?" And what? Because I was a drummer. And he's like, "Oh, I bet did you talk to Gary any?" And this, I mean, crazy.
That is. That's insane. I'm going to text Gary Gribble and let him know who my professor is.
Yeah. He'll be like, "Oh, sorry." No, I love Gary. Gary made me cry the last time I saw him. He was conducting, I think it was the Forsyth Honor Band, or it may have been an all-state band. I don't know, but he told this story of our one of my friends, Jen Duncan. Her son died of cancer, and he dedicated this piece to the kid, and he told the story. And like I remember Jen, Jen and I were friends in high school, and like we follow her and follow each other on Facebook and stuff, and I knew the whole thing. But just to see, like, because Gary's about 10 years older than I am. So really, when you think about it, when I was one of his students, my first students are 10 years younger than me. So it's like, okay, I get it now. But I mean, God, it was so special. Like I was literally bawling at a concert. And that's not my style, but it was just because I had such a connection to what he was talking about. And of course, the piece, I don't even remember what the piece was, to be honest with you, but I know it was beautiful. It's probably a Sam Hazo or something because he loves that guy. Um, anyway, when we were talking about emotion, and the emotion that we can get from music, I mean, it's crazy, Joel. You were saying, can give you chills, the amazing thing is, I mean, music has that power. When Stravinsky first did The Rite of Spring, a riot broke out. He had rings on every finger. That's hilarious. He's got super long hair now, kind of like me, except, mine's black, his is white. Um, again, 10 years. Um, but no, and I mean, he's fantastic. And what's crazy is his girls, I remember when they were both born, they're both married, have jobs, children, and I'm like, wow, I guess that makes sense. But but yeah, um, that's funny, Joel. But yeah, so back to emotional response, literally a riot, a physical, violent riot broke out at the premiere of Rite of Spring because people thought that the music could have been possessed by something because it was so aggressive, you know? And it's crazy because there have been a lot of things like that that had, that gave people an emotional, or guttural response. Um, so, and in some cases, it will make you cry. I mean, and based on experience or whatever, you can't hear taps if you were ever in the military without, at least tearing up because you know what that means. Right. Now, for me, I wasn't in the military, but I still know what that means and where it's played. And it's a very strong significance. There's certain hymns that like just get you, you know. Um, I told you guys mine is Were You There? I mean, it's beautiful. But there's a lot of different ones that, that get you. All right. So, Joel, you're gonna get yours to me by, can we say this time next week? Yes? Okay. I would like to listen, today is the 10th. I have to have everything graded by the 16th. Yeah, it says the 14th is the final date because I wanted to give myself time to grade it. I have to turn grades in on the 16th. So if you can get it in uh, sooner than the 14th, great. If not, that's okay. You can use up till the very last minute. But after that, that's the only time in the semester where I get grumpy. Yeah. Oh, it happens.
If
Um,
I want you to look over mine, should I email it to you directly or should I submit it and then you make comments? How would you prefer that I do that?
it doesn't matter. Whatever you want.
Okay.
Other folks have emailed it to me, and that's fine.
Okay.